Hi guys! In this video I'm going to discuss relative rest and why that is so important when you're recovering from Achilles tendinopathy. So my name is Maryke. I'm one of the physiotherapists from treatmyachilles.com, where you can get online assessment as well as treatment for your Achilles tendinopathies. So what we're going to look at in this video is we're going to do a quick recap on what happens when your tendon is injured and you've got a tendinopathy or tendonitis in it. We're going to look at why complete rest isn't useful, and then we're going to look at how you can apply relative rest to your tendon. So let's dive right in. Now, if I can get this slide up. So this is a picture of an Achilles tendon that's healthy. So a healthy Achilles tendon has loads of little collagen bundles or fibers aligned in parallel to each other. And that's what makes it so strong, because remember that experiment we did at school where if you had one piece of string you could easily break it, but if you had about 10 pieces in parallel it really took an effort to break it, if even. So that's what makes it so strong. And you'll see also you've got some tiny dots there which are little cells, and you've got a little bit of white substance between the fibers, but not a lot of it. Now once you've got a tendinopathy, this is how the structure looks. So you can see those lovely aligned collagen fibers are now in a little bit more of a mess, more like spaghetti. You've got loads more of the white substance in between them, and the cells you see there are slightly a different shape. They're larger and they're also round shaped because they're now different type of cells. So in essence, what's happening here is that the tendon has lost some of its strength. And Achilles tendinopathy or tendonitis is an overuse injury. So it happens because the tendon was worked too hard for the capacity it had. So how do you get the injured tendon to turn back to a healthy tendon, or how do you get the symptoms of a tendinopathy to improve? Well, it's a combination of two things. One is that you have to stop overworking it. So you've got to give it relative rest. That's where that comes in. And two, you've got to use strength training to stimulate the tendon to rebuild again stronger. And that kind of feeds very nicely into the next point of why complete rest isn't useful. Our bodies are quite good at conserving energy, because it's forever expecting us to starve to death because we're not getting enough food. It doesn't know about all the cakes that's available these days. So it will never waste energy. If you don't do anything and you just lie on the couch the whole day, the body will go, oh, we're strong enough for what you want to do. I can start using that energy to rebuild other parts of the body. So you start losing your muscle mass, you start losing your strength in your tendons and your bones and everything. That's what complete rest does. Now, if we exercise, on the other hand, the body adapts the different parts of the body, including the tendons, the muscles, the bones, to cope with that exercise. So complete rest is not useful because it will actually continue to weaken your tendon even further. That said, if you have an extremely painful and flared up Achilles tendon, resting it for a few days may be useful. So it's not always a clear-cut no rest. Sometimes a few days of rest can be useful, but not longer than that. Okay, so that kind of tells us why complete rest isn't useful. Now, how do you actually apply relative rest to this, and what does relative rest mean? So with relative rest, we only take away the really aggravating activities. So we establish a baseline that we can see that the Achilles tendon is strong enough to cope with, that doesn't aggravate it any further. So remember, as soon as you get an injury, the capacity of that tissue to deal with the forces of running or walking or jumping, depending on your case, decreases. So where you could do that much before it was injured, now that it's injured, it's only strong enough to do this much. And we have to figure out what this much is in order to apply relative rest for you properly. So what we normally do is we establish what activities you can do that doesn't cause you pain, that flares up in the next 24 hours. So it's okay to feel a little bit of discomfort, that you just know it's there while you're doing it. But if we look at the 24 hours after that, your pain level should not have increased. Okay, so you want to be looking for something that doesn't really hurt while you're doing it, but then also don't just think that that's the important bit. You have to check even the next morning, are you still okay? Because sometimes it takes 24 hours for the tendon to show that you've overdone it. The other thing I will say with regards to relative rest, it doesn't just apply to your running or to your walking or to your jumping. It applies to everything you do. So we have to establish that baseline for how much you can run, how much you can walk, your strength training exercises, because often people jump in with really heavy things and then that flares them up. That's going to be set at the right level. But then also your other activities that you do in daily life. Patients will often tell me that I haven't done anything and it's now painful, but they're only thinking of the sporting activities they've done. They don't realize that kicking a ball with your son in the garden counts as exercise for that Achilles, or walking a lot for a shopping trip you're doing, that counts as exercise for the Achilles tendon. So you've got to look at the whole load during that day and figure out how to use that relative rest during that. So for some patients, we can actually keep them running while they're recovering. Others, if even a small, very gentle run irritates your Achilles, you may have to stop running for a while and just go towards walking or swimming or cycling. But it all depends on your specific case. Some patients can actually continue a lot of running, and it's just the fast running that they've got to cut back on. So the value of doing that type of treatment where you only cut down on the bits you have to means that you don't have to start with such a big deficit, and we keep your tendon as strong as possible the whole time through. So let me know if you've got any questions. If you need more help with your Achilles injury, you're always welcome to consult us via video call, and the link to our website is in the description of this video. Take care.